How's it going, guys? And welcome back to the Theme Park Shark podcast, the Shark Stop segment here with Alicia Stella.
Hello.
We have a super fun one for you guys today. We're going over 5, or actually probably more than 5, 7, I guess, 7 or 8 rumors for Super Nintendo World that could potentially be game changers. Game changers in, I guess, the actual whole landscape of theme parks, and also for Universal Studios themselves. Super excited to dive into these, and I believe I'm calling you the unofficial, official expert of all things Super Nintendo World, Alicia.
Okay, I'll take that.
So I think you are the perfect person to talk about this topic with. So we have some super cool rumors that we are about to dive into. So what do we got at the top?
I think one that people kind of keep hearing about but aren't exactly sure is augmented reality. This could be a huge game changer in the way that 3D once was on rides. That Spider-Man kind of blew everyone away with the way that it integrated the screen and a ride and it moved, and it wasn't just I'm just watching a screen. This could have the possibility to change the landscape again. Yeah, or it could be a way for people to be like, oh no, they found a way to put screens into reality. But there's been rumors that the Mario Kart Ride will have augmented reality headsets, and that even though it's a fully fleshed out dark ride with real sets and animatronic figures, there'd still be additional stuff that you could see through the glasses.
If they're able to actually implement things that maybe would have never been possible as far as maybe with an animatronic or actually making it look real enough on a screen, if it can be done through augmented reality, I don't see that as a bad thing and as, oh, this is more screen. I see it as this is a way that they're finally figuring out how to do something in a more physical way.
Yeah, I mean, if you're playing a Mario Kart game, a big part of it is getting those item blocks and getting one of the random special items and then using it against other cars. If there was just an animatronic special block in the middle of the road and you passed by it, it wouldn't be the same as just driving right through a hologram. It explodes in front of your face. A heads-up display starts going boo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo, and you get a mushroom, and then you press a button and it boosts you. That would be a way to integrate something playable in a ride, but also have a tangible ride underneath it. So I think that could be a game changer and a way to really add an extra element, especially with things we're so used to it in Marvel movies with the heads-up display in Iron Man's suit or whatever. So I think adding a HUD element to a ride is actually pretty innovative. And, it's always possible. Maybe they even have it as optional. Take your optional AR headset for additional features on this attraction, because it's going to be enough without it that if they were to cut it last minute because the technology's not up to their standard, I still think they got an amazing ride here. But that's not the only augmented reality for the land.
Really?
In the plans, in the concept art, and in the leaked model images, there are these little binocular stations all around the land in the Super Mario Land area, and you can kind of walk up to them and look through them. And at tourist spots, there's different binoculars set up on bridges and things, and you'll be able to see the real Super Mario Land, but on top of reality, augmented reality will put other things in, maybe Mario jumping around, even the smiling clouds in the background, all linked, perfectly augmented with real reality.
Oh, that's cool.
So it'd be an interesting way to add additional layers of, kinetic stuff into the land. There's been rumors, they're not sure if the augmented reality is going to go to Mario Kart, but I am 100% sure these binoculars are coming, and that tells me that they're wanting to get this kind of augmented reality technology into the land and the rides.
It's funny that you mentioned tourist spots that have those binoculars, because if you actually think about it, we actually have binoculars here at Universal Studios Hollywood on our little Starway walkway that kind of, view out towards, the view of LA. So putting those binoculars in our Super Nintendo World actually kind of fits the park really well, because we already have them just without the AR up top. But it seems like it could be super cool. I think just as you mentioned, it would be important that Mario Kart will be able to stand on its own without the AR. Just like you said, if someone wants to do it, if they don't want to do it, if the ride can stand on its own without it and still be strong without it, I don't see how adding AR is a negative. My only question to you at this point is, how the heck are they going to pull off AR, seeing as though the AR still seems to be in its infancy right now? To how expensive is it going to be to have this many goggles? And how are they going to pull off the computing power?
These are the questions.
They're already super stingy with the 3D glasses that they changed over to in the last 5-6 years, I've never seen a crew more on it as far as making sure they get those glasses back. So what are they going to do when they have AR glasses?
Alarm goes off if you leave the Transformers without returning those glasses. You set off an
those
alarm.
Aren't AR goggles.
I think no, these are 3D
Yes.
glasses. So these will be immensely more expensive. They might have like a harness or a battery pack, because you got to think they have to have the computing power somehow attached to the glasses. I wouldn't be surprised if there was like a pre-show room or a ready room where you actually have to be fitted, like get your glasses on, size them to your head or whatever, because they're too heavy, and then you go to the ride, like, because this is a whole nother extra step that hasn't been done before. And yeah, maybe the technology isn't ready, or at least it wasn't when they started this project, but this is the type of thing that can jumpstart. And, if you throw enough money at it, maybe it'll be ready by the time they're ready to open the ride. They've been working on this for, 4 or 5 years now.
I just hope the harnesses aren't that big. Could you imagine strapping like a toddler in like a harness that's actually like a decent size?
Yeah, I'm just like imagining the the readiness room for a laser tag thing.
Yeah,
you gotta put on
exactly.
the vest, and it's got all the battery packs and light up things on it. Hopefully they get it small enough that it's almost like Google Glass, and there's not much to it. Let's hope it's small, and like the Magic Leap AR headsets aren't too bad, and they're getting smaller every year. And this is something too that could upgrade as time goes on and not actually affect the ride itself.
That's kind of my hope. I mean, there are AR glasses that are coming out that are more, I guess solely on the face. It'll be interesting to see how Universal does it. All of those glasses that do have it just solely on the face usually have computing power somewhere. For instance, Apple's, that's coming out in the next 6 months, getting all of its computing power solely from your phone. And then there's something like the HoloLens from Microsoft, where the computing power is actually in the glasses, and it's really bulky and really heavy. So I'm kind of curious to see how that'll affect the ride experience. If it is some sort of vest or something you have to actually physically put on for computing power, how they're going to implement that into the theming. I don't really understand how they're going to say put on your protective vest so you can go drive. That's interesting.
Your driving goggles.
Yeah, exactly. But we'll see. I guess that's all up in the air. So second, we're looking at multi-level design?
Yeah, I think this is something that's starting to take off the way that inside lands in many of the overseas parks are starting to take off, where you have an entire theme park land inside a building. The idea that we can put twice as much stuff if we put 2 levels might be a game changer in the way that I bet you we see a lot of copycats after this, where we can put, a restaurant on the bottom and play areas and exploration caves on the top. We can have gift shops down here, a restaurant up here, and it really utilizes space in a way that's not usually done at the theme parks, at least not to this scale. Even the ride itself for Mario Kart, massive show building. And just like around the size of the ET Adventure show building, but ET Adventure shares the building with, the queue and pre-show areas. And this puts all of the queue on the second story for Mario Kart and all of the ride on the first story. And it's probably the biggest queue they'll ever build at Universal Parks. And that also means that the ride itself gets to take up more of the building. And with 2 tracks, you really need the space. So it's a good utilization of space. But yeah, it's you wouldn't get as much interactive play areas, which we'll talk about next or later, if you had just had like a quick service restaurant and a gift shop. I think by doing this multi-level design for the land itself, you're going to get twice as much in the amount of space that you're getting.
Something that I wanted to bring to this conversation was actually talking about, obviously, as we're already discussing, how it'll change the landscape of theme parks in general and how parks going into the future might utilize some of the technology and ideas that Universal is using for Super Nintendo World. But what I wanted to talk about was what this actually just means for Universal itself, what bringing in Nintendo means to the park. And I think the biggest thing that you have to realize is how many intellectual properties Universal is actually going to have at their fingertips right now. I mean, first of all, you have to think just this week, Luigi's Mansion came out. That was the #1 trend on Twitter. Last month, the Mario Kart app came out. That was the #1 trend on Twitter. The series that they have is the Mario series, Legends of Zelda, Pokemon, Super Smash Brothers. They have 1080 snowboarding just to show you how diverse it can be. Animal Crossing, Kirby, Splatoon, Star Fox, the list goes on. I kind of look at it as, if you kind of look over the last decade, they walked away, at least for the most part, from a lot of their partnerships with Nintendo. They literally don't have that much in the park anymore, especially compared to where it used to be, not only in Hollywood, but especially in Florida. As we look at it, maybe a little bit of an older generation, we might still think that Nickelodeon IPs are pretty cool and they're still relevant to us, but maybe to the younger generation, some of those IPs are kind of dated now because they don't have shows anymore. For Nintendo, it's kind of interesting because they kind of seem to be popular across the board right now. They've been utilizing the exact same IPs for their games from the Super Nintendo console all the way to now the Switch. So it's kind of an interesting where all of the classic IPs are still relevant in today's world because they keep reutilizing them and pushing it for their new consoles.
I love Animal Crossing. I really hope they do something with Animal Crossing. Even if it's just Nook Shop, like that would be so cool. Or like a little city street somewhere, a kids play area, like Kirby, like Splatoon.
So
These
much.
things would be great for a Kid Zone replacement at Universal Studios Florida. Like I could definitely see, if the initial land is successful, I can definitely see Universal doubling and tripling down the way that they have with Potter. And this is definitely the biggest thing they've had their hands on since Potter. I mean, the only other big IP out there is probably Lord of the Rings. And I feel like this is more evergreen than that because there will always be new games coming out.
And new consoles.
And then those consoles will put out new versions of the old games, and it'll never end. In a way that the aesthetic will actually still hold up. Like Lord of the Rings, you build a land and it's like, is it based on the movies? Is it going straight back to the book? Is it based on the new Amazon series? And I feel like that might change too much. Whereas Nintendo is timeless. It is, I mean, oh man, Pokemon is the highest grossing franchise as far as merchandise goes in the world.
Wow.
There's nothing like Hello Kitty comes close. Mickey Mouse comes close, but nothing beats Pokemon. So if they were able to like get that into the parks, if Epic Universe expands with the Pokemon land like it's rumored to, like that is a mouse killer right there. And that brings us to our next point, which Disney has been trying so hard to get interactivity into their parks, whether it be scavenger hunts or ways to integrate your app, like with the Disney Play app, like walking around with your phone and having to charge it with free fuel rod swaps because you're playing in the lines too much. But I think what Universal's planning to do, or what they're rumored to do with Nintendo World, is kind of bring it back to reality, where you can actually walk around the land and punch a question mark block or collect coins or activate certain things where like bad guys are hiding. And
interesting.
And just like there's even interactive play areas, but when I call them play areas, I don't think people realize I mean like all ages play areas where you can actually walk through. Like imagine walking into a cave entrance and inside it's got blue bricks on the walls and it's always doo 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 doo, and you can collect coins in there and squash Koopa Troopas, and you don't have to run around and play, but the kids can. You can just walk through and enjoy the nostalgia heavy experience of being in a Mario game. Like in between your quick service meal at Toad's Cafe and before riding Mario Kart, just kind of explore. And there's supposedly going to be mini games and digital interactive. Like they've already got the binoculars for augmented reality, but they'll also have like digital interactivity things that are integrated with the land, which is another thing that Valtech specializes in, where you can play like a mini game that integrates real life objects by moving your hands around or something. And like you just turn a corner and all of a sudden here's this like multiplayer game happening in a cavern somewhere. and I think like it's really going to change the game on like interactive experiences and interactive elements in a land. Even the Donkey Kong area, which won't be in all of the Super Nintendo worlds, but it'll definitely be in Orlando. There's animatronic characters along the pathway and in the queue that you can just have a conversation with.
You're kidding.
And I'm not that familiar with the video game series, but there's a rhino and I think a parrot and a couple other characters that like as you pass by them, they might call out, oh, and like Cranky Kong. Is that a character? That's got a character, right?
It might be. I know there's a Diddy Kong.
Frankie is going to be like making jokes and being grumpy.
Oh yeah, there is. I see him right
as
here.
you walk by him. Like, this is the kind of interactivity I've always dreamed of for a theme park land.
Right.
It's not just like I miss the Pirates of the Caribbean parrot so much here in Orlando.
Yeah.
Like he would just like sit out front and like he'd just be like the barker trying to get you into the attraction. He's like, ha,
Yep.
a pirate's life for me. Hey. And like they took him away, but they kind of put him back into the ride. But imagine that, but you can talk to him and he talks back to you and looks you in the eye. They kind of started doing that with the goblins at Diagon Alley, but this is taking it to another level.
It's interesting because you look at what they've already done. And basically, the extent of that is, like you said, it's the goblins in Diagon Alley. And then for interactivity, probably is it just the wands? I mean, what else has Universal really done on a physical front like this? Can you think of anything else off the top?
Nothing to that extent. I think wands is definitely the biggest.
So this is just going to take wands to the ultimate next level, and from what you're saying, right?
Yeah, and that actually brings in to our next point, which I listed separately because even though all that interactive stuff is great, it doesn't require this next part, but they're adding it as well, which is a scorekeeping element. Tom Williams, the CEO and chairman of Universal Parks, claimed just a couple weeks ago that you'll actually be able to keep score throughout the land with a wristband. And now he was talking specifically about Japan, but Japan's the first to open their land. So I assume we're all going to get something at least similar to this. And he, like, exact quote, he says, and you're going to have a wristband that's got a big red Mario symbol on it. And the wristband is super cool. It's all magnetic. You slap it on your wrist and it just snaps on and won't come off. And so he's talking about it. He says it's going to keep tally of your scores throughout the land. It's going to keep tally of your score on the rides. So there's some kind of like scorekeeping element. Maybe if you win the race on Mario Kart or you get a better time, you can keep tabs on that with your scorekeeping. And so every time you collect a coin in the land, it's going to record it somehow on your wristband. And he said it connects to your home console as well. So you can keep track of your stats even when you're not on vacation, like when you're away from the parks. So I just imagine like a trophy list, going back to your Switch or whatever it is in the future and just like keeping your tabs on all of your stuff. And then when you go back to the parks, you can try to build on that and do better next time. And I think that's totally new for theme park experiences.
See, when I hear something like that, I begin to wonder who pitched what to who. Did Nintendo come to Universal and say, hey, whatever you do, we're going to need you to, hook this up with our Switch so that people can go home into their console and kind of see their progress? Or if Universal pitched it and that's what solidified their business to Nintendo, Nintendo's like, yeah, great idea. These guys know what they're doing. It's always interesting to kind of think about like who pitched what to who.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that they landed on the go home to your console though, and not the walk around with your giant Switch or even your Switch Lite and like tap it to things. Like, I'm glad we didn't, like, we want to experience the parks as if we're in a video game. We don't need to be bringing the video game to the parks. So I like that he specifically said when you go home, you can tap to your console.
And that's cool because it's like an extension of your trip to the park. I mean, and that's kind of, I think, how we would want it, not as a part of the trip, but something that even when you go home, you can kind of just still feel like a part of it and you can kind of remember your trip and things like that. It's cool.
I mean, can you imagine if like somehow when you connect your console to the internet, you can see the leaderboard for everyone's scores for all the rides? Because I don't know about Donkey Kong, but Yoshi and Mario Kart are rumored to have, lots of integration with the gaming elements. So it's possible.
Be like MIB, but social.
Yeah, it's the next generation. It's not just this car did better than this car. It's you versus the world.
Top leaderboard rankings worldwide. Who is the best? That'd be pretty cool for theme parks. I mean, that really hasn't been done. So if you want to bring in a true gaming element, which is, rankings of skill, that's a way to do it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And not just the rides, but like the mini games around the land too. How
true is that to Nintendo properties though too? Like almost every Nintendo game that I can think of has some sort of at least one mini game. I just feel like that's so true to the actual company and the IP. I think that's an amazing thing that they're actually.
And I don't think it's something that people aren't talking about. I don't think that's a rumor I haven't really seen out there, but there's definitely going to be mini games, and there's even rumors of a Pikmin thing where you can collect Pikmin throughout the land, hiding in different spots. So it's crazy.
Next level. And that takes me into my next point is, again, what this is actually going to do for Universal is not only, let's just focus primarily on Epic Universe right now in the Orlando resort. Not only is this going to go into Epic Universe, but it has the potential of an expansion plot right next to it. It has the potential of taking over Lost Continent at Islands of Adventure, and it has the potential of taking over Kids Zone at Universal Studios Florida. If all of this does well, we're looking at some sort of presence in every park at the resort, which, as you know, would pretty much only rival Potter.
Yeah, and I think there's a good likelihood of that happening.
Yeah.
I mean, and kind of like when they added on or replaced the Dragon Challenge with the Hagrid coaster, which fit the land more it fit more in the Harry Potter world. It's entirely possible, they might add a Ministry of Magic attraction to Diagon Alley. And I think adding that second land to Epic Universe or expanding the Nintendo world into double its size within a few years is kind of akin to that, where if they pull off Pokemon, I swear, speaking of interactivity, if they don't have us walking around with a Pokedex and collecting all the Pokemon in that land and like having like animatronic figures in the windows and you activate it with your $50 Pokedex that you bought, like a wand. I'm fine with that, by the way. I much rather that than the DataPad app on my phone for Star Wars. I want a device that's just for this.
And it looks like it.
Yeah, and it looks like it. Oh god, with a little screen and it's red. Maybe we can get different colors. I don't know.
What if we get the actual voice from like the original anime too coming out of it?
Definitely worth the $45 to $50. That's all I'm saying. Universal, listen to my ideas. I could see Zelda taking over Lost Continent. I can see something like Splatoon or Animal Crossing or Kirby or all of them take over Kids Zone and make a really fun kids area. Like there's really no stopping. As long as the money's coming in and it's continued to be successful, I don't see why they wouldn't.
Think about what you just said, though, too, with Zelda taking over Lost Continent. This is kind of a point that I was making, too, with not only do they have access to so many different IPs, they're also different. I mean, it's almost like a theme park designer's dream. I mean, think about how many different like concepts and themes and places you can go with all of their different properties that they own. They're not like very similar properties where they all kind of, there's kind of like spin-offs of one another. Like they're literally different places on all of these things, and it opens the door to literally, like, for Donkey Kong, going to a jungle, for Pokemon, the whole world of Pokemon, for Star Fox, you can go to space. I mean, it's literally like the place.
F-Zero.
Yeah.
Like there's really no end. Yeah, you're right. It's like from sci-fi to old Middle Earth almost style aesthetics. Like it's totally different. You can kind of get the best of every world. I think also there's rumor that they're going to do a Super Smash Brothers show, and that we might get a show where we get to sit and watch these diverse cast of characters fight, and like the background changes, like on the Runaway Railway Minnie and Mickey's, where like the background changes before your eyes using different technologies. I could like imagine a show where you're sitting there and then you're in like a cityscape, and the next thing you know, you're at like a floating mountain for Kirby. Like it's so completely different.
Oh my gosh.
Even in one show, it would be like mind blowing to see the different backgrounds change.
Let's go to New Ride Tech, because that's pretty much that's in there.
Oh yeah, like that. I could definitely see, like they say they're working on it and they want to do it. The creator of Super Smash Brothers wants to do it. I've heard that the Bourne Stuntacular show is a test of some of the technology they want to bring to a Smash Brothers show. That the way that it mixes live action with the screen technology and moving set pieces. But new ride technology for the land, it seems like everything is introducing something new that hasn't been done at Universal, and some things that have never been done before ever. Like the Donkey Kong's minecart coaster, where it really runs on a track that's hidden underneath, but it looks like you're running on the normal track, and then there's a gap and you jump over it. And it's something that seems so simple, but it's just never been done before like this.
Kind of surprising to think about.
And it's the perfect application for this technology. Yeah, it's just they've never had a property that had this. And of course, now we're not going to be able to press jump. So we have to go through blast barrels. The blast barrels will take us up over the gaps. So at least it makes sense in world.
Could you imagine if that was interactive? Time to jump.
I'm not going to do it. I want to see what happens. The spikes.
That'd be so funny.
But Mario Kart has patents for not only the AR technologies, but moving set pieces to make it look like you're going faster. So like things coming at you, mixed with different, like just moving the whole background around so it looks like you're going fast, even if you're not. And kart drifting. So when you turn a corner, or maybe you get hit by a banana peel and you start wiping out, like it's not just attached to the track in one point, but in 2 points, so they can move the front and the back independently of each other.
Wow. That's something that I touched on in videos prior that I've done too, is I didn't feel like you could have a Mario Kart ride without implementing the banana, the spin out, without implementing drifting. I mean, it's all literally parts of the game. So to see how Universal will pull that off is super exciting.
Even if you do like the mushroom burst and the front lifts up a little bit when you speed up, like almost like a wheelie, like that would be really cool too.
See, these are all things that I hope come to fruition, and I don't know, based upon I guess the actual sizing and what seems to be coming out, if I'm kind of putting my hopes too high on speed. I know they're going to be doing a lot of different elements to actually make it feel like you're going really fast, but maybe you're not necessarily going as fast as you think. But I'm hoping they get this one right. I mean, this is an IP, this is an opportunity, and this is a ride that could really close the gap with what they're doing against Disney. So I'm hoping that there's no missed opportunity here.
Yeah, I think instead of actual speed, they're going with cramming as much from the series, the video game series, as they can into it, and getting as many, like going through 8 different tracks in one ride instead of just picking one track. I think it was an interesting, unique choice that so no one's really left wanting. Like you really are getting to experience the best of the franchise.
It's almost like a forbidden journey in that sense.
Yeah, kind of. This is a thesis ride. This is everything that we know from not just Mario Kart, but like characters and settings from other Mario rides that are in Mario Kart. So we kind of get to see everything. It's a good way to, it's a good introduction, especially for places like Hollywood that might only get one ride to start. It's a great introduction to Super Nintendo world.
Rainbow Road's going to blow everyone's mind, isn't it?
Yes. Let's hope we don't fall off the side.
I love it. All right, guys, that's our rumor roundup for pretty much everything that's going to change the game coming from Super Nintendo World at Universal Studios. I'd just like to thank Alicia Stella again for dropping by and doing the Shark Stop segment here on the Theme Park Shark podcast. If you're catching us on YouTube, don't forget to leave a comment, hit that subscribe button. We appreciate everything you guys are doing. We will do our best to check out your comments and get back to each and every single one of you guys. Theme Park Shark Podcast, pretty much everywhere that you can find podcasts is where you can find our podcast. You can also find Alicia Stella on YouTube at The Theme Park Stop by Alicia Stella. She has the Park Stop podcast, which is available anywhere that you can find podcasts. And she is Alicia Stella on Twitter, where you can find all of the latest and greatest upcoming rumors on Super Nintendo World. Alicia, thank you again so much for being here, and we will catch you guys in the next segment of Shark Stop. See ya.
Bye.